Okay.
My name is Freddie Moore. I went in the United States Air Force in October of 1969 and stayed until October of 1973. I took my basic training at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. I went to tech school at Lowry Air Force Base in Denver, Colorado. And after I got out of tech school, I spent 18 months at Pope Air Force Base in Fayetteville. And then on my overseas duty, I went to Upper Hayford, England. I spent 2 years over there. And it was just normal. I guess nothing spectacular happened. I was in during the Vietnam era, so I'm considered a Vietnam era veteran. And one thing that stands out about England was my oldest son was born over there. And this is my discharge. I didn't get it till August of 1973 because I had to serve 2 years in active duty after I served my 4 years duty. And also I've got this is my daddy and his discharge from the Army back in 1945.
Well, thank you, Freddie. We thank you so much for your service. Thank you.
I thank you. I just want to thank everybody that has served and is serving now. And God bless everyone.
Hi, I'm Sid Smith. I served in the United States Air Force from 1964 to 1968. Started out in basic training at Lackland Air Base near San Antonio, Texas. And then after the basic training, I was assigned to the Air Police, and we went on training for about 8 weeks, and then we were assigned to our permanent assignments, and we could choose where we thought we'd like to serve, and of course if they needed you somewhere else, that's where you'd go. So I chose England, Japan, and Germany, and Germany is where they thought I needed to be. So that's where I went, and I was 6 months from basic training to the assignment, and then for the next 3 years I was in Germany. And I was assigned to the security police, which we guarded the perimeter of the base. We had some cargo planes that would come in, and then basically we had F-16 fighter jets that were equipped with guns on the wings, and then also they could have nuclear weapons attached to the wings. And then they were out on the perimeter of the base, and so we would stay out there guarding those planes. And
Well, Sid, we thank you so much for your service, and we thank you for telling us about that. Very interesting. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Hello, I'm James Moran. At the age of 23, I received a letter from Uncle Sam. Said it's time to serve your country. So we all met, several of us met up at the draft board, which is across from Hops Barbecue. We left there, went to Charlotte. We was sworn in Charlotte. After we left Charlotte, we went to Fort Bragg. They dumped us off down there at 4 o'clock in the morning. We went in to tents. The next morning, we were suited up in our Army fatigues. We spent 6 weeks there, After 6 weeks, I went to Fort Gordon, Georgia for AIT training, MP school. I spent 8 weeks there. From there, this country boy was shipped to Frankfurt, Germany. I was there. I worked the city a while and then worked the stockade. I was an MP.
Ferris Albright, U.S. Army. I was drafted in 1965 and was in the service till 67. I was on a ship that half the crew went to Vietnam and half went to Okinawa. And I was blessed with the Okinawa destination. And I was in the warehousing, and that's
All right. And so you were in the U.S. Army?
U.S. Army drafted.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
My name is Gary Brown, and I was in the military from 1968 to 1970. I was drafted after business college, and Becky and I got married on September 29th, 1968, and then I left for Germany October the 10th, 1968. But I was able to go to basic training in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I was there for approximately 8 weeks. And then I went to Fort Dix, New Jersey for advanced infantry training. And it was there that I applied to go to OCS, but when the time came, my orders had been delayed for OCS, and I didn't really understand why, because Becky and I had planned to get married on my leave. And just prior to my leaving Fort Dix, the guy in the company office asked me if I knew I had orders for Germany. And I said, no, I did not know that. And he said, do you want to go to Germany instead? I said, absolutely. So I called Becky, she was thrilled, and our marriage took place. And then, as I said, I left 10 days later to go to Germany. And we were not reunited until January of 1969, so there was 3 months, 2 holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, that we were apart. And looking back, you really don't think at the time how the Lord had his hand in everything that was done. But after infantry training and knowing that everything was going fast and furious in Vietnam, I guess that was the dread that I had, was to go over there. But when I got to Germany, I was fortunate enough to go to a headquarters battalion that was on an Air Force base. And because of the schooling that I had, they had an opening for a finance clerk. And they said, would you be interested in that? I said, absolutely. But it was a time of learning and leaning and trusting in God for his protection. And that's about the end of my story.
Thank you, Gary, and thank you for your service.
Good morning, I'm Doug Smith.
And this is you while you served in what branch of the military?
United States Marine Corps.
And when did you go? Did you enlist or were you drafted?
I enlisted before I graduated from high school, and what happened was we graduated one night in 1963, and the next day I was on my way to Parris Island for Marine Corps training.
So did you spend your training at camp at Parris Island?
Yes,
and
ma'am.
then did you come back to North Carolina?
Yes, we came back to North Carolina to Camp Gagger to take infantry training, and after that they sent us home on a 20-day leave. And then I reported to my first duty station, which was 6th Marine Infantry Division. And I was in what we call I-36, that's I Company 3rd Battalion.
And that was at Camp Lejeune?
That was at that was at Camp Lejeune.
Okay.
And I stayed with them for 2 years. Matter of fact, we went to Norway for cold weather training, and that was a good trip. And then we had gone to La Corona, Spain, and Portugal, and we were doing some infantry training there. And we came back home, and after a while we went into the Mediterranean.
And thank you for your service, and thank you for your time.
I appreciate that so much.
This is Tom Cole. And Tom, you served in what branch of the service?
I served in the United States Marine Corps.
From?
I went in 1968 and was in until 1974.
And where did you go to boot camp?
I went to Paris Island and went through 13 weeks of basic training, and graduated. Once I graduated, of course my parents come down to the graduation. From there I went to Camp Geiger, where I went through infantry training, and I took a month of infantry training from there, and from there to my first unit, which was the 2nd Marines at Camp Lejeune. And from Camp Lejeune, I volunteered in towards the end of '68 for Vietnam, and I left around December, the last part of December, to Vietnam, where I served there for 13 months. And when I left North Carolina, it was winter time. And when I arrived in Vietnam, in Da Nang, where the aircraft landed, it was 90-some degrees.
Wow.
And that was a big change for me.
Yeah.
But I was young, I could take the hot weather back in those days. But then from there, I spent the night there, and then I flew out on a C-130 and went to Dong Ha, where in the northern province. That's where I was at the whole time I was in Vietnam, was in the Quang Tri province.
We thank you for sharing this with us, and we thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Beth Strider, and I'm a member of Balfour Baptist Church. I joined the Army in 1986 out of Ohio. I graduated from high school and decided I wanted something more, so I decided to venture out. And my first duty station was Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I was there for 3 years. I was a combat medic, and then I left to go to airborne school. Went to airborne school in 1990 and arrived in the 82nd Airborne Division. Immediately, I was placed with 307th Med Battalion, and a couple months later, I deployed to the Gulf War with the 82nd. When I came back, stayed in the 82nd for a while, went to Jump Master School, went to the Expert Field Medical Badge course. I was promoted to Staff Sergeant, and that's when I met my love of my life, Mark Strider, William Mark Strider. He was a second lieutenant in my company, but he was not my boss. So that was okay, because I was enlisted, and we started dating in June of 1994, and we were married November 10th of 94. So it was a really fast, romantic courtship. And after I was married, 10 days later, I left for Egypt, and he stayed at Fort Bragg after that year. Came back, we had our church wedding, and during my deployment, I did get to come back in June of 95 and pin his first lieutenant on him. We stayed at Fort Bragg for a while, had our first child together. Clayton Strider in 1996. And from then, we call it PCS to Fort Sam Houston, Texas. Mark made captain, I made sergeant first class. Ended up having our second child together, Jillian Strider, in 2000 in Texas. Ultimately, we've loved our years in the military. We've met so many friends, had so many great leaders. The military was our family and still is our family. When Mark passed away this year, he had people come from all over, not only his peers, but leaders that he had to his funeral to pay respects for him. Mark was an awesome man and the love of my life. We were married 26 years. So we love our veterans, we love our country, and we're very prideful. And this is a military ball that we went to at Fort Bragg together, and I keep a set of my ID tags and his ID tags, dog tags, hanging around that picture. That was a good time we had.